The roof is on fire. If you play goaltender for the Colorado Avalanche, your ass is on notice. Damn it. And plus, we got all the great stuff that's coming up. Your mic is up.
It's a big week. It is a big week for us, Jimmy. Over here, we had obviously the big championship weekend this past weekend. NFL playoffs are in full swing. Your quote unquote Bengals could still be alive, possibly. They're not.
If we keep the Simpsons on our roster, I like our chances a lot better.
Not entirely dead. And most importantly, you and myself are playing each other in the losers bracket for our fantasy football playoffs in hopes of not getting the last place game. So big things are moving here at the last couple of weeks of 2024, which has been a fantastic year for us. But big things are moving, and it's I can't wait to get into the rest of it because it's been a big week in the sports world.
As it stands now, you are up by 2 points. I'm looking at it now. We both have one person playing.
And I have Jawan Jennings. It doesn't make that much of a difference, really.
I didn't realize that it was the two of us. I've been pretty much out on fantasy football for a while because I was trying. I tried to be like you guys. I really didn't care as much going into the league as you guys did. And then I'm setting my lineup and I'm following. We follow all these different pages on our show. And I picked up Justin Fields when it was announced that he was going to be the starter at the beginning of the season. And then I had this and I was doing that. And then I have like 4 or 5 guys every single week that are not scrubs. They're playing on the field, yet they get negative points or lose points. I had Travis Etienne. He scored a touchdown at the end of one of the games and then fumbled 2 minutes afterwards. So he negated all of his touchdown points. I'm like, I'm not trying to come in last. I'm really not trying to be the easy matchup for everybody. And I get it. I'm here for all the shit talking, like set your lineup. Bitch, I've been setting my lineup.
It's absolutely buffoonery that I'm in this last place bracket because I have 3 more wins than everybody else in this losers bracket at minimum. And I was in the playoffs, and it wasn't for somebody. I'm not going to name names because I'm a bigger man than that, but he knows who he is. If this individual set his lineup 2 weeks ago and replaced Dalton Kincaid, who didn't play a single game, who didn't play, by the way, for his backup tight end Pat Freiermuth, he would have won by 10 points instead of losing, getting that last spot to the other person. I'm not complaining.
It's not me. I know it's not me. Thank God.
It's not Jimmy because Jimmy and I'd be going out Jimmy's head right now because I have this.
He'd have drove over here and we'd have fought. We'd have been fist.
I would have driven over there and told you myself to fucking set your lineup and pissed. I would not. That's how salty I am. But I'm gonna let bygones be bygones. All I'll say is this: if I can come in last place, he's running with me. I'm making sure of it. Okay, so I'm just absolutely fuming that obviously I'm not in the playoffs because I have a damn good team. I probably could have beat anybody. I put up 150, Jimmy.
I know.
150. I got 200 put on my head, and that's the reason why I lost. Didn't make the playoffs. I Josh Allen 55 points against my head in a game that shouldn't have mattered because I should have been clinched already. Just stupid fancy football stuff. I'll let you put this poll out there because I think it's an interesting poll. Would you rather have because another one of our friends, a guy who's been on the show a couple times, Jonas Starr, is in this scenario. He was 7-1 in his fantasy football league. He lost 6 straight and he missed the playoffs.
Oof.
Would you rather lose 6 straight and miss the playoffs and be 7-7 after 7-1 season, or would you rather be in my situation where you should have been in the playoffs if it weren't for someone that didn't set their lineup the last 2 weeks of the season? That's a good question. I think both suck. Both
do suck. That's a good way to get yourself relegated or kicked out. That's a good way to make sure that nobody wants you in your fantasy league anymore. I honestly, at that point, because I've dealt with I've been out of the playoffs for so long. I feel like I'm not the Carolina Panthers. I'm the Las Vegas Raiders of the fantasy league. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying. Shadur's been posting, tweeting God is good every time after I lose. That's been my scenario. But I feel your pain. I'm not sitting here saying that I don't understand. Again, it just doesn't mean all that much. I get more butthurt about Doug whooping my ass in college football than I do about some fantasy football. I literally have no control over.
Gee, I'm in the last place game in my family league. Like, you know how degrading that is also? Like,
Your family league is a different story. Family leagues are personal.
That hurts. Like that just hurts.
Yeah.
And the thing is if I read you my team off, I'd win any other league I'm physically in. But considering I don't have if I don't have a top 3 player at each position, I don't win that league. Let me make that very, very clear. There's 6 teams in the league.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's not that many teams. So you got to draft. You have to draft well, and you have to hope that you have not developed. It's a different situation in college football or even the NFL. You're not drafting and developing, but you hope that you draft, and then you hope, oh yeah, I have Jawan Jennings. I have I can't even think of McCaffrey's backup that's been playing.
Guerrero. I have him. Don't worry. Isaac Guerrero.
Doing bad. The guy before that, Mason. Was it Mason?
Jordan Mason. Yep.
He's like, oh yeah, well, thank God I picked him up in the random 6th or 7th, 18th round or whatever it was. But I thought I was going to be smart, and he's kind of turned himself in. I'll say my biggest swing, and I'm not going to call it a miss, but it's one of those warning track power hits where you were feeling really good. You don't play baseball, but I'm sure it's basketball where everything looks great. Like you followed through with your form, you launched it at the perfect angle as it's falling into the hoop, like it's going in. It just bounces in and out. You rimmed it out. That's the one part of the rim that you couldn't hit. That was Chase Brown for me.
Chase Brown has not had a bad year.
I know. I ended up trading him away because I got a couple really good games out of him, but I needed better receivers and better tight ends. My passing game in my fantasy league sucks. Chase Brown has the ability to score on every play, and he gets tripped so easy.
I'll tell you where you fucked up. Andre Yoshevitz is a good receiver.
That was another one that I swung and missed on.
Fantasy football receiver. There are receivers that are good for fantasy football, and there are receivers that aren't good for fantasy football, and they could be good in the NFL. Jawan Jennings, I don't think anyone would particularly say Jawan Jennings is a top 15 receiver in the NFL right now. But he's a top 15, top 10 receiver when it comes to output and production and fantasy football wise. Same thing goes for some logic. And look, I can't blame you. You were late.
That was a pick that if Andre Yosivach becomes a fantasy stud for me, we're talking about the Bengals possibly competing for a 1 seed. If Yosivach did what I was expecting him or wanted him or trying to manifest him to do, he does well in fantasy and he does well and the Bengals are winning. Neither of those things happened.
The one thing that obviously was your downfall is I want to see what your thoughts are on this because obviously you didn't draft McCaffrey. You were late to our draft. You had the first overall pick. You were automatically drafted as Christian McCaffrey. Hindsight's 2020. Don't get me wrong. Would you have changed that pick from the first day, or would you have just stuck with your horses? Just think that he had that lingering issue where no one really knew the answers back at the beginning of the season, but you probably could have expected him to play at least 50 to 75% of the games this season. Would you still have taken McCaffrey?
I was pretty happy at the time because I was on the field coaching, so I was going through the draft as I was also yelling at middle school football players. So honestly, if I'm thinking about it, if I'm going to put myself back in those shoes, I'd probably go. I thought Nick Chubb was going to have a better season than he did. I wasn't going to go Chubb with the first overall pick, but knowing what I know now, hindsight being 2020, Saquon Barkley, if you drafted him, if you got him, I was like Saquon as the running back, the receiving threat, the guy that's literally going to be, he's on pace for 2,000 yards and puts literally what running backs do. And that's what Christian McCaffrey's proving. I probably would have gone Saquon instead of McCaffrey if I was picking a running back number one.
That's interesting because obviously Saquon, I love looking at the percentages after the season's over, regular season's over, and seeing where everyone stands. But if you drafted Saquon Barkley in the top 5, which most people, he wasn't a top 1, 2, or 3. He was roughly around the 5 to 6 range originally. If you drafted Saquon at that 5 to 6 range, I would take a wild guess you're a number 1, number 2 seed right now. There's a very good chance that you're
especially if you ended up stealing Allen in round 2 or 3 after you get Saquon 5 or 6, because I feel like didn't somebody pick Allen? Allen got picked pretty early. Allen's kind of the unicorn because he can score 10 points in a play. He proved that.
Catch and throw for a touchdown. Yeah. Absolutely saying. Look, it's interesting because, like I said, I don't know. We don't talk a ton of fantasy football on this show, but we are very heavily invested in it, and that takes over our lives outside of this show. So I think we had to touch on it a little bit. But look, you look at I find it so interesting because I'm in a couple of dynasty leagues too, where I keep the same roster every single year. Well, this can segue into college football a little bit, and as we get into the rest of this, because I think this upcoming 2025 skill position draft class could be one of the best we've ever seen. like you look at the talent between obviously Travis Hunter, Ashton GT, Shador, Cam Ward,
Jackson Dart is going to be somebody that somebody takes a flyer on for sure.
Isaiah Bond, the two Tyler Warren from Penn State, Colson Loveland from Michigan. Like there is a good crop of talent, especially this running back class.
You didn't even mention Emeka Egbuka, who's been there for a guy long that
I
time.
want the Broncos to take. Thank you very much. but yes, like there's lots and lots of great options and for those dynasty drafts in this rookie class because and frankly, I want to give a kudos to college football, NCAA football for this, like not the league, obviously the game, because I probably would have known half of these names before this fucking game came out. Now the game comes out, I play it nearly every other day, and I'm just recognizing names. Oh, this guy's playing for this team. Oh, that guy's from that team. Oh, this guy's going to transfer or portal for this year because he didn't get the touches here. It adds to it, and I think it just makes it a lot more fun that way. I don't know. I feel like I'm a lot more educated going into next year's draft because of this game more than I ever have been. As weird as that sounds, I know that sounds weird, but I think a video game has done that to me.
That's legit. I think that's why it's the best thing for EA that brought that game back, because now you get the fantasy football guys that will buy the college game to see, if I can work the sticks with this guy on the field, I could probably count on him to do a little bit of something, maybe not year one right away, but in dynasty leagues, you have the ability to draft and hold and see. And then if you're holding somebody, Chase Brown would be a guy that I probably would have drafted second or third round when he was a rookie, because I know when you saw him run in college, when you saw him run at the combine, that was just like his twin brother is not even as fast as he is, but he's got some speed that like you can literally take it to the house on every play, similar to what we see out of Jamar Chase. That's a guy that you stash in a dynasty league, and then 2-3 years down the road, possibly, I'm saying not as it looks like he might be able to be a solid 1 or 2 running back option in fantasy leagues.
A guy like Jimmy Horn, obviously, he doesn't get the love and praise that Webster and Travis Hunter get in that Shador Sanders offense. He's going to be a 4th or 5th round pick and a guy
he's going to the Dolphins.
People are going to, I know, probably. And he's a guy that everybody's going to have to keep their eyes on because he has that top end speed and great one-on-one, great in one-on-one coverage. So, look, this fantasy football year has been very interesting, and obviously playoffs starting this week tonight as we're talking about it and going in the next couple of weeks. It should be interesting because Saquon and Josh Allen can get you the playoffs. Who are the big players these next 3-4 weeks? Like that can make a difference, because there's some guys out there like something Westbrook from Tennessee, who's been a great flex option, has been dropping like 15 points a week on a bad Tennessee Titans team, could be a league winner. Like there's a handful of guys out there that are waiver wire guys that they get to fill in for guys injured and could make massive moves for teams winning fantasy football championships this year.
Last thing about fantasy sports I do want to mention, because I picked it up as a remedy for how bad I was doing in fantasy football, and it's actually worked out pretty well. I'm on the top side of my division. Fantasy hockey, 6-3. I'm up right now by 5 or so points, and I'm wheeling and dealing in that one. I'm adding somebody and dropping somebody in almost every matchup. That's kind of what you do in fantasy hockey, similar to baseball, and I assume fantasy basketball. I never played fantasy basketball because I spend most of my time on a wrestling mat. That's literally all I do.
I wish I could get more fantasy basketball, fantasy hockey, but it's just so tough staying alive every single day.
I'd normally take one day because the app is good enough that you can move it to the next. You basically, like, you have a matchup for a week. So I just go through the matchup on Sunday and I make sure that I'm not leaving many bench spots open.
And the problem is also having 9 other people do the same thing. That's the other difficult part about it. Because like either I'm
just in a random one.
Yeah, random one where like it doesn't really matter, but you're having fun with it. That's the toughest part, because I wish that there was a way to construct it differently and be a little different in how fantasy hockey, fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball do the way they do.
All right. Speaking of hockey,